Hello, Ilorin. I'm really honored to be speaking at Devfest today. My name's Elizabeth Alli. I'm a product designer and the founder of Designer Up School and of Simple, based in San Francisco. And today I want to talk about something that has really shaped my journey in life and in tech, and that is mindfulness. Now, you might be thinking, as in meditation? Somewhat, but no, not exactly. It's really about the mindset of being aware and non-judgmental and intentional. Mindfulness is something that's been a personal practice of mine since I was a teenager, but it's not something that's often talked about in the context of business or tech. However, in my nearly 20 years as a designer and teacher, I found that integrating mindfulness into work can have a profound impact on us and what we do. I call this mindful design. Now, there are two things that are at the heart of most issues that we face in this industry, whether we're breaking into tech or we're building a product or we're working for other people. And that is communication and narrative. It's the things we say to ourselves about ourselves when we make mistakes. It's the judgments that we pass about others and our biases. It's the frustration we feel when we can't get buy-in on our work, or the imposter syndrome that creeps in when we finally get a chance to shoot our shot. But these are all just perceptions of the mind. They are not facts. They are the stories that we tell ourselves. And mindfulness can be a tool that we can use to observe these stories and give them some space without taking them as fact. For most of my life, I have been really guilty of derogatory self-talk. I mean, no one can insult me like I can insult me. Now, part of this is in jest, but I didn't realize how my words really fed my own imposter syndrome and self-doubt until I started to pay attention to it. Little each day, I started to notice that critical voice, and I began to work with it and say, thank you for your message, but I don't need to hear it so harshly. I am human, and it's okay for me to make mistakes. It may seem simple, but it was really a bold act of self-compassion. One of the most powerful realizations for me was that I'm not required to believe everything I think. I can choose to make up another, better narrative for myself and use that for positive fuel instead. One thing I really believe is that there's no better way to help the world around us than to tend to the world inside of us first. When we approach work and design in this way, we create things that are more authentic and that connect with people on a deeper level. Another way that mindfulness can manifest is pretty practical. So now I want you to take out your phones. Now, click on the search bar and you can type something in like my name, Liz the Wizard, or Devfest Ilorin 24, and then see what comes up. You can scroll through some of these posts, you'll see everything that comes up. And then when you find something that you want to like or share, just click on it. You can bookmark it, you can hit like, you can repost it or make a comment. Okay, now close out Twitter. And open it again. But this time, I want you to pay attention to the interactions that are happening on screen. When you start typing, do any icons appear? Do you feel any haptics or do you hear any sounds when you start typing? When you find a post this time, does anything else happen? Do any screens pop in from the side or modals pop in from the top or bottom? How long do they take to pop in or pop out? When you repost something, what happens? How does the screen shift? Do any of the colors change, etc.? This is the difference between passive usage and mindful usage. Designers and devs can learn so much by getting into the mindset of being an active observer rather than just a passive user of the products they interact with. Mindful design really is about paying attention on purpose to yourself, to your team, to your users. And it's not about having the right answers either. It's about noticing what's there and sticking to your values even when they don't align with your goals. Working in Silicon Valley at the height of the startup bubble in the early 2000s, I met a lot of otherwise principled founders and companies who started out with the best of intentions only to end up participating in manipulative practices and dark UX in order to make their businesses grow bigger or faster or to please investors, most of which are now a Netflix docuseries. You don't want to end up there. And we're seeing more of it today with the over-gamification of UX experiences or casino UX and apps that collect and sell our data. Interactions that don't take into consideration their harmful addictive qualities and the detrimental effects that they can have on our mental health. It is a fine balance between grow-at-all-cost mentality and a sustainable business and community model that you can grow over time. The later can be difficult because it takes patience and intention, and it often requires making lesser of two evils decisions. Mindfulness is not about being perfectly ethical or never causing harm either. We are all human, and that is not realistic. It's really about defining our values and upholding them with the little choices we make every day. One of the biggest misconceptions is that impactful design has to be grand. But the truth is, the things that matter most are often not extraordinary. They are the small things done well over time. For 2 decades, I have been building websites and web apps and making templates on huge no-code builders like WordPress and Wix and Squarespace. But the bigger and more complex those platforms became, the more they were leaving behind the very group of people that they were meant for, non-technical people that can't design or code. This bothered me for years, and for years I collected data. I mindfully observed how people struggled to make a website. And finally, this year, I had the chance to launch my 3rd startup with my co-founders called Simple, which is a no-code website builder for those with zero technical or design know-how. Initially, we had pushback from investors that said we aren't thinking big enough, that we didn't have enough hooky engagement tactics, that there was too much competition in the marketplace. And yet, here we stand today, growing at an exponential rate and having people switch to us from WordPress and Squarespace with not a single dime of investor money or paid advertising. Against all odds, we're beating the big boys because we're solving the small problems. And we're doing it for a very specific type of person that we know really well. Any bothersome task can be bettered and transformed into something meaningful when done mindfully and fully present. So when you sit down to design, aim to see the problem with beginner's mind and approach it with curiosity and care. Another thing I've experienced a lot of is failure. That mean voice in my head, it got really loud and bullied me during those moments. But by giving it my awareness and reframing it, I learned a lot from failure. Mainly, that failing accelerates progress faster than just about anything else. Michael Jordan famously said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Most of us will never fail enough to actually see real success, so don't be afraid to get it wrong, and don't be afraid to begin again. This brings us to the business of ethics. We live in a time where the little decisions we make as designers and devs have real tangible effects on the world, on people, communities, and the environment. Great design is not about the thing itself. It's about the meaning that it holds for people. This is also a great differentiator, even in a crowded market. If you can know a user just a little better than your competition, you can build a product and capture your piece of that market on that alone. You can also build a business on lack of transparency, little white lies, and trickery. Both are possible and both are valid paths. But ask yourself, what type of products do you want to make? So to wrap things up, here are a few daily mindful design practices that you can do. First, tend to the inside. When you're feeling overwhelmed, take a breath and ask, can I approach this in a more joyful or present way? You'd be surprised how often this changes your energy. 2, when you fail or feel like an imposter, good. that means you're on the right track because every mistake is a stepping stone to mastery. Every time you sit down to design, aim for beginner's mind. See your work like it's brand new with curiosity and love. And always put your mental and physical health first. Listen to your body because these are your greatest assets. Next, tend to the outside world. Practice listening without judgment and using the yes and method rather than the no but method. So you can say yes, and we could also do this, instead of no, but that will never work. Pay attention to the small things and do them consistently well. This is what makes you wise and skillful. Don't get lost in the busyness of your work or what others are doing. Always come back to why you are designing or doing it and who it's for. Put it out there. Start with something. Fail gracefully and then take what you've learned and begin again. And finally, trust and take the next step because every action reveals gaps in your knowledge and shows you what to do next. I think the future of tech lies in mindful design, creating products not just for the sake of it, but thinking deeply about why we're doing it and the meaning behind it and what we're bringing into people's lives. And it's not about perfection, it's about making more conscious choices that align with our values. For designers and developers, it's about considering what we're being asked to create and how we can wield our power and influence more mindfully. You see how you all listened to my presentation? Very demure, very mindful. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of Devfest.